Okay, now we're going to talk about how do we actually enter data. So how do we get it from being pieces of paper that you've recorded information on to being in a worksheet that you can actually analyze. And so I'm going to take you through some of your options. Now the first option, which is actually what a lot of people take, is that they go and they start entering all their data into a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. The problem is that it's actually really hard to enter data without creating errors. And if you doubt me, and there have been many studies in which spreadsheets have been audited and the error rates vary, but they run between about 80 to 95%. And so the odds are against you being someone who is able to enter the data without errors. So the solution is if you only have a small amount of data, so I'm sort of thinking maybe 20 to 50 pieces of observations and say 10 to 15 variables per observation, you could in fact create a mini data entry form in Excel and use that to enter the data, and it's just a little bit more intuitive and it uses tabs, so you may find it a bit easier. Now, how you actually get that form to work will vary depending on whether you're in a Mac or in a PC. So if you Google creating a data form in Microsoft Excel, that will show you how to do it. And it's going to look, when you've got it set up, something like this. So you can see that it's taking the column names and it's just letting you enter in the variables, and this format, this way of looking, is just easier on the brain and therefore less likely to make mistakes. In a lot of EPI studies though, you have more than 10 to 15 variables and more than 50 observations, so this is actually quite a laborious process to do it this way. And so what I recommend is, even if you are collecting the data in pen and paper format, is that you actually create an online form which you're going to use to enter the data. And the reason for that is that you can actually create a series of rules. So you can put skip rules in, for example, so if they don't answer this question, it takes you straight through to another set of questions. You can put in rules, so for example you could set something which said age cannot be greater than 45 or whatever. If there were some values for which it would not be plausible, then you can set those. Now there is a number of available options for you on the internet. There's Survey Gizmo, Survey Monkey are probably amongst the two most common. They are what we call freemium products, so they have a free entry point which will enable you to enter a set number of observations and have access to certain features, after which point you have to start paying. Alternatively, you can use Qualtrics for free if you're a Massey student, because that's what the university has purchased as an option, and it does also have some basic data analysis features which help you to just validate your data at the end. All of these allow you to export a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet at the completion of data entry, and all of them are automatically doing backups to the cloud for you. So basically, if you've got, I would say, more than 50 observations and more than 10 variables, then you really want to look into creating a data entry form in one of these. And if you're a Massey student, we are recommending Qualtrics because that is free and it's what the university is supporting. There is another option which is EpiInfo. Again, it's free. It was created by the CDC, Centre for Disease Control, and it has data entry forms that you can set up and look to prevent data entry errors. It also has the advantage of actually having some basic data analysis capabilities. It is an option. It's not one we recommend for those who are going to be learning to code in R, because you don't need that functionality and it's probably not as user-friendly as some of the others. Finally, some of you may have heard, we should be entering data using Microsoft Access. I would say no, unless you meet a very particular set of problems. Now, firstly, it can be expensive, although if you're an enrolled student at virtually any institution, you can get it at a reduced price. but it's not very user friendly. Okay, and you really need to learn how to use it. And so I would only use Microsoft Access if I had something called relational data. And rather than give you a whole lot of mumbo jumbo as to what relational data is, I'm just going to explain more by example. Okay, so data is either what we call flat or relational. Flat data would come out if we measured information on a study subject at one point in time. So if you've done a cross-sectional survey and you've measured body condition score excuse me, at a set point in time, then that is going to likely be a flat data set. Relational data will occur when we have multiple measurements on a single unit. And so that could happen, for example, if we're following an animal over time. It can also happen if you are surveying multiple animals on the same farm. But yeah, on that second option, you may want to consult with someone before deciding that Access is the way to go. So to sort of give an example, if you were doing a study in which cats were weighed regularly, what you'll end up with is a whole lot of information about the cat which doesn't change. Okay, their date of birth, their breed, their sex, possibly neuter status, but often in the course of a short study it's not going to. But you're going to weigh them at multiple times. So we can store that information in two separate locations, and we will link them here through this cat identifier. Now for a very basic data set, so if you were just going to say 3 different farms and collecting data on animals at 3 different farms, I wouldn't do an Access database because we can manage it all through Excel. So really the take home is, if you are collecting data on multiple data from the same unit multiple times, be it an individual animal that is going to be in the study and be followed for a period of time, a farm or a slaughter plant that you're going to go to and collect data, then you have got relational data and you need to talk to someone about the best way to manage that before you start entering it. Okay, so at this stage I'm not expecting anyone to know how to solve the problem. I'm just expecting that people will be able to identify that they have relational data and seek help. Okay, so a reminder, you have flat data, that's when you go in and you collect at one point in time, or when you go in and you collect multiple pieces of it, the same data multiple times, either from the same animal or a farm where you're collecting information on animals on the farm, or a slaughter plant, for example. Okay, if you have relational database data, then please seek